Today, medical science can achieve things that would have seemed impossible a century ago. We can sustain human biological functions almost indefinitely, keeping hearts beating and lungs pumping long after they would have naturally stopped. But this incredible power created a devastating paradox. When a person suffers irreversible brain damage or a permanent loss of consciousness, their body can be kept artificially alive, trapped in a continuous medical loop with zero quality of life. For decades, the law saw this issue in absolute terms. Under the Indian Penal Code, intentionally ending a life, even by simply turning off a machine for a terminally ill patient, was considered culpable homicide or an abetment to suicide. This strict legal framework trapped families and doctors in an agonizing emotional limbo. They were legally forced to stand by and watch a loved one endure prolonged, unnecessary suffering with absolutely no legal recourse to intervene. Out of this suffering emerged a desperate plea for compassion. The concept of Ichha Mritu, which translates directly to the wish to die, became a central debate, a deeply human request to find a dignified exit from a permanent medical trap. Medical technology had accidentally engineered a terrifying ethical vacuum. We were left with a brutal collision between the state's rigid legal duty to preserve life at all costs and the human need for a peaceful, dignified end. To resolve this agonizing gap, the Supreme Court of India stepped in with a historic ruling. The court declared that Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, the guaranteed right to life, must inherently include the right to die with dignity. A life entirely stripped of dignity, they argued, is not truly a life at all. This legal matrix shows the critical boundary the justices established. They explicitly did not legalize active euthanasia. Active euthanasia involves the intentional administration of a lethal substance to cause death, and that remains strictly illegal. Instead, the court specifically legalized passive euthanasia. This is strictly defined as the deliberate withdrawal or withholding of life-prolonging medical support from a terminally ill patient, stepping back and allowing natural biological death to occur. But legally sanctioning the right to die immediately raises a massive red flag. How do you ensure this new legal pathway isn't misused, coerced, or forced upon vulnerable patients by malicious actors? To protect citizens, the court couldn't just pass a blanket law. They had to engineer an airtight system of preconditions, ensuring that passive euthanasia could only ever be executed as an act of pure, verifiable individual autonomy. The foundation of this protective system is the living will, officially recognized in Indian law as an advance medical directive. An advance medical directive is a legal document that allows a person of sound mind to explicitly dictate their end-of-life care parameters, making their wishes legally binding well before they ever reach a state of incapacitation. If that patient later becomes permanently incapacitated, a secondary, rigorous safeguard is triggered. The hospital must form specialized medical boards to physically examine the patient and verify that their condition is indeed terminal and entirely irreversible. These medical boards do not make the decision themselves. Their job is to confirm that withdrawing life support perfectly aligns with the instructions laid out in the patient's advance directive. The document acts as the patient's voice when they can no longer speak. By combining the preemptive consent of an advance directive with the objective verification of medical boards, the court created a robust dual lock system. It firmly protects a citizen's bodily autonomy while satisfying the state's duty to prevent foul play. Because of this framework, ordinary citizens are no longer navigating a legal gray area. We now possess proactive legal agency to map out our own mortality. This removes an unbearable psychological burden from families. Relatives are no longer forced into the traumatic position of making potentially criminalized life or death choices for a voiceless loved one. The legal system recognizes that true compassion doesn't always mean fighting nature endlessly with machines. Sometimes it requires gracefully yielding to it. The Supreme Court has ruled that preserving biological life should never come at the cost of human dignity. In doing so, they have granted millions of people the legal right to write the final chapter of their own lives in peace.